Some people train for rank, others for recognition, but a true martial artist trains for life, and today you're about to meet one of them. Tim Buckner is a lifelong martial artist from New York and someone I've had the privilege of knowing personally over the years. From the first time we connected, it was clear Tim is a true professional. He's the kind of person who's not only dedicated to his craft, but he's also incredibly easy to talk with, and he always keeps an open mind. That combination of discipline, humility, and approachability makes Tim stand out in the martial arts world. In this episode of Kumite Lifestyle, Tim shares his journey through karate and lessons he's learned along the way and the mindset that keeps him growing year after year. His story is one of perseverance, professionalism, and passion for the art. So get ready, because this conversation is more than just about karate. It's about staying humble, staying open, and living martial arts as a lifestyle. Let's dive in with Tim Buckner. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle. Today, I'm excited to have on a friend of mine, Tim Buckner, and Tim is someone that I've known for a while now through the martial arts, but he's more than just a martial artist, so we're going to get a chance to kind of deep dive into that. So, Tim, welcome to the show, and it's good to see you. How you been?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Good. Busy, man. Real busy. We're full into school mode right now, so the kids have been running around and stuff. But yeah, it's good. It's been a good fall so far. I guess end of summer, but yeah, so far
Awesome.
so good, man.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, like I said, like we're excited to have you on, and it's interesting you mentioned fall time, right? So it's just crazy how fast time flies, and I know you're a family man and you have kids, and that's something that I want to kind of dive in a little bit just to kind of get your perspective on fatherhood, if you will, because I know you have some great
Sure. Yeah.
insights. But just so the audience knows, so I met Tim through Ishinu Karate. So karate is a type of martial arts for those that don't know, and Ishinru more specifically is a type of style that we study. And if you can see in Tim's background, he has quite a few of his Ishinru certificates from over the years. So Tim's a dedicated martial artist, and one of the things that I admire and respect about Tim is just his tenacity. It's just and his loyalty to the art. So let's start with that. Let's kind of backtrack to when you first started martial arts, because I think that'll be a good opener, and then we can kind of just go from there. So, Tim, when did you start martial arts? And like I always ask anyone that has been training, why did you get started?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, yeah, the certs in the background, it's actually funny you bring that up. So the center one's my OIKK cert, but then the other two, it's actually my son studies now. So he's a member of OIKK, and my wife actually trains with me now. So what used to be my wall of all my certs and stuff has been pared down to, the best ones for me, and then the family certs as well. So it's a celebration of everybody, which has been kind of cool. It's been a cool couple years getting a chance to share Ishinru with my family. But
That's awesome.
um, yeah, it's really cool, man. I mean, we find so we've got a space here at our house, a dojo kind of built in our basement, and more often than not, after the kids go down to bed, my wife and I will come down and we'll train for 20, 30 minutes at a time. So it's been fun. It's been really fun. Yeah,
Very
it's
cool.
been awesome. Yeah, so my training, I started young, a lot like you. I think I was in first grade or so, and Master Chase came with his school and did like a demonstration or whatever. And I had a couple buddies that were in it, and I think Ninja Turtles were real big at that point, and
Yeah.
so it was just one of those things where I had to do it, right? So I think that was probably my kindergarten year, and then when I hit first grade, my mom tried to kind of pair it off until I was a little bit older. She finally gave in and brought me into the dojo for the first time, and yeah, it's been a part of my life ever since. But my training has progressed, along the years. I trained with Master Chase for a long, long time as a kid. And then through college and stuff, I had to kind of take a break, but had an opportunity to travel around different parts of the country and got to train Gojo-Ryu a little bit, which was really cool. So it's another part of our lineage. If it's a big part of Isshinryu, right, is Gojo-Ryu, and so I got to learn where some of our katas come from and really deep dive into that history as well, which was really really cool. And then I was able to reconnect with Master Chase. He recently relaunched his school here in Rochester, so it's been kind of full circle in the last 3 years, kind of coming back to my roots with Master Chase.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you started training at a young age, and I know you mentioned Ninja Turtles, and like myself, I
Yeah,
started
man.
when I was 6 years old, and I remember and I think I shared this with you just in the past. And I got started because at my sixth birthday party, I got a Power Rangers movie. It was the first VHS, I think Power Rangers movie at the time, and it was huge back
Sure.
then. And yeah, it's kind of interesting how those little moments they kind of redefine or help define and shape us, for the future. Things that we didn't even think were possible. But that's cool. Yeah. So you started training at a young age, and you know, and you're still training now, which really speaks volumes because I feel like at least for karate, and correct me if I'm wrong, you either start at a young age or you start much later in life. Meaning we have students here that I get to teach that are, already established adults. They have jobs, families, and every person that I talk to always says, "Man, I wish I would have started when I was six or younger." So the best time to start is when you're six or, age five or today. So it's
Yeah,
just
you're right.
it's just fascinating how you have that, mindset and you have that experience where you can tell students like, yeah, I started at a young age, but I'm just glad that you're starting today. So I think that's a message that I can really convey over to the next, you know, I guess future students, if you will. So cool. So now
Yeah.
yeah, so talk about your training as a kid, if you can remember. I mean, I'm sure you do, but like what were some pretty profound moments training as a kid that you said to yourself, all right, like I can see myself doing karate for a while. Like I'm in this for the long haul because for a lot of people and we see people come and go all the time in this industry and I'm thankful, to still be doing this today and I know you are as well. But what was that turning point when you realized, and maybe it wasn't so much as a kid, maybe like a teenager, but I would love to kind of get some, insight on what was that moment for you when you said, all right, I can, like, this is a part of me now?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think as a kid, you don't really understand the full grasp of what martial arts truly is. And it hit me probably as a teenager. And more so, so I took a little bit of a break in high school for a year or two. And it was actually within those 2 years where I didn't have karate and martial arts in the dojo where I realized that it really was such a big part of who I was, and kind of what defined me as a person, at the core value of who I am and how I live my life. And
Yeah.
so it was in the absence of karate that I really decided that, all right, this, I'm in it. You know what I mean? And I remember going back to Sensei, and he had Master Chase. He had moved schools by that point. He had downsized a little bit from when we had our big school when I was a kid. But I remember having a moment with him going back and being, almost like reaffirming myself to the arts and to Master Chase and really at that point jumping him with 2 feet without looking back and dedicating, the whole thing, right? It was no longer just movements and katas and learning the next one. It was really about understanding the true arts and what it means to live that karate lifestyle.
I love it. Yeah. So for yourself, it wasn't something that might have not hit right away, but it was a little bit later in life when you like, it's one of those things like you don't appreciate something until it's not there anymore. So I think
Yeah.
so for what I'm hearing, karate was that, thing for you as well. That's
I
awesome.
got lucky too, because it was right at the time where Master Chase was kind of getting more involved with OIKKA. So I got a chance to reestablish with him and the community that really defined my beginnings, my roots in Isshinryu, before he, went off and traveled a ton more. So it was perfect timing. It's everything for me has been timing, and it worked out really great. So yeah, I'm
That,
very thankful.
that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. As I say, timing is key. So
Yeah.
good stuff. So, just to kind of backtrack now, when you were training as a young student, can you recall what training was like as you were going, like, through the ranks?
Yeah, so Master Chase, he teaches everyone the same. I mean, you've had enough classes and interactions with him. He really prides himself on treating even his kids almost as adults, right? Like what we're learning at the true core of it is not something to be taken lightly. And so he teaches it like that, to everybody, age, skill level, and everything else. And I think that's as a kid what really kept me in it was I felt like I had a place to go where I was being I could kind of feel older than I actually was, right? And it was a place for me to go. And especially as a young age, as you progress, and from your experience, right? as you get into those more advanced belts, you get a chance to then teach the white belts behind you, and being able to do that and realize that I had this ability, that not everybody had, right? It felt like a superpower as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I had like our little core group of kids that we trained with and we went to school with. And I didn't interact with a lot of those kids in sports outside of karate, but you walk through the halls and you always give them a, what's up, recognition of,
Yeah.
just we thought we were big and tough, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. Sensei always he drills hard, he teaches hard, but he always ends the class usually with some sort of life advice. And we always take from mat to life, and having that message to go out and apply not the techniques, but the mindset in everyday life. And that was always really really cool to walk away from his little messages and stuff. And it's cool because now as an adult and watching my son train, I can see him doing the same messages to my son, and it just, man, it brings you back and all the memories and stuff of the dojo. And yeah, you realize these little humans and what path they're on right now, and it's cool. It's rewarding to see from a parent's point of view now.
Yeah, and like you don't realize how powerful those messages are, especially as a young kid. And I think a lot of the times when we, or just even coming up through the ranks, I mean, I can't remember every workout I did. I can't remember how many times I did a front kick or, combinations or sparring. But what I can remember, and you kind of shed light on it, was just the friendships that we gained just by coming to class, especially at a young age. Because I remember on Friday nights, I used to play basketball as well, and there were a couple of kids that also did karate. And sometimes on Friday night, I would go home with my friend Mikey at the time, and he was also training karate, and we were also playing basketball. And it was just so cool to share like those two interests without even realizing how special it was for the time. Because as kids, like you don't realize what's authentic and like how cool a moment is until it's past. And in this case, all the way up into adulthood. But yeah, I think growing up and and I'm glad you said that, just kind of being in the hallways and seeing kids that you would train with, and it was like a superpower, It's like you felt like,
Yeah,
yeah, like I know how to punch and kick. It's like I'm a Power Ranger, bro. It's just I just can't
yeah,
morph yet. But
sure, yeah.
no, that's awesome. So good stuff. So now with karate and going through the ranks at such a young age, did you ever compete?
Yeah, we so up in Western New York, there's a ton of Ishinru schools, and so we used to compete. We were big enough, thankfully, that we actually had our own like inter-school dojos. You know what I mean? We'd get together probably twice a year. We'd rent out space at a gym, and so we'd compete just within our school system.
Yeah.
And so we always had a healthy competition within the dojo, which was really nice. We did a couple regional tournaments out in Buffalo and stuff like that, and so we had everyone had an opportunity to compete, but we had, especially as we got into more advanced belts, we had kind of a tournament group that we train with and stuff like that. I have special black belt classes for to kind of prep not only for advanced ranks, but then also for tournaments and kind of putting that shiagi on our katas and stuff at a young age. But yeah, and then when I took my kind of high school break and stuff, the tournament scene kind of fell off. And so actually it had been a long time. We did a friendly tournament, I think back in like 2010 with a local dojo, Arakata, who's no longer around,
Hmm.
Chase Karate, and a couple other local Ishinru schools. But up until then, fast forward to the world tournament, I hadn't competed in like 15 years. So when I came down to Delaware, man, it was a whole new world again. I felt like I was a white belt stepping into a tournament for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, those
Yeah,
same it's like those like yeah, because you can't ever really describe those feelings of competing, like until you're actually out there. Because you can train all day in the dojo, you can get all those reps in, which is very valuable. But when you're actually out there, man, it's it's like butterflies all over again, but times 1,000. But
yeah,
but it is pretty cool though. I think competing is definitely while it shouldn't be the main focus of training, in my opinion, I think when you establish a good base as far as like self-defense and just having a really good understanding of the fundamentals underneath your belt, then you can kind of expand there. Because too many times we see a lot of schools that's all they do is compete, compete, compete. And I think I think there's merit there, but I think a lot of it is like we kind of lost the true meaning of karate and just the true meaning of why we train. But It is what it is.
Yeah.
Not all karate schools are the same. Not all martial arts schools are the same, but I think every school has their pros and cons, I'm sure. So awesome. So you had a chance to compete. Now let's kind of shift focus or kind of shift towards teaching because now you're an
Sure.
instructor. And for anyone that's listening, if you haven't taught kids or taught adults, that in itself is a totally different ballpark, I feel. So, Tim, when did you start instructing, and was it Master Chase, or was it someone kind of giving you that permission, or did you kind of step into that role without even realizing you were teaching?
Yeah, so it's kind of a progression thing, and so Master Chase is a really good like growth as he starts to identify, at a young age. I'm talking back when I was a kid, the potential of sticking with it. He can kind of figure out who's in it for the long haul, who's going to get it, beyond just black belt, right? As you know, a lot of times a lot of finish lines for people is getting that first degree black belt, but the true martial artist knows that that's just the beginning, right? And so anyway, I think Master Chase has a really good eye for kids and young adults that show that potential. And so he had me teaching at least in some aspects early. Right around green, brown. It was always, we'd have a class of 40, 50 kids. And then we'd go through some joint techniques or the basics, maybe go through Seisan Kata, and then we'd break off. And he'd always have the more advanced kids go down and work with the white belts. And so I grew up kind of always helping the younger kids or the lower ranking kids through the katas and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but then, as I got more advanced and started understanding, the application or what we call like the bunkai or the oyo of a kata, that's when teaching really took off for me. And I feel like it unlocked a whole new part of like what Ishinryu martial arts really is. And being able to, not only just tell them, step left, side block punch, but saying, okay, here's now the different ways might be able to apply it and expanding from teaching maybe a portion of a class to then being able to apply it and teach a full class on concepts or theories or things that I view as value add to martial arts. So like that transition happened slowly, right? It's from, I can kind of almost time it with my ranks as I went through. And so by the time I got to, third degree black belt, I felt like I had kind of had the building blocks for like the foundation of how I like to teach and what I like to teach.
Yeah.
And then obviously being able to go to some of these symposiums that we have with OIKKA and seeing some other maybe different viewpoints and stuff have opened my eyes to other stuff. And that's the
Yeah.
cool thing about martial arts is that it evolves. It evolves with you and you can get exactly what you want out of it at any point. It just depends on what you want to put into it. So um, it's been a slow evolution, but one that doesn't feel like strained or like defined by any one moment for teaching, which has been like such a nice way to kind of grow into it. It's been low pressure, high reward kind of situation for it.
Yeah, it's a really good breakdown. That's awesome how you kind of said it's kind of like your own progression and you get out of it what you're seeking because it's like when we first start karate, right? We start off as a white belt and this is more the training, linear aspect. But when you're teaching, it's like you kind of start all over again as a white belt because it really is a challenge in a sense. And you don't appreciate teaching when you're more into that role and then you realize why your instructors were stressing the basics, the stances and the over again and like you appreciate those things. And I had such amazing instructors and mentors growing up and I know you did as well. So to be able to pass that on now to the future generations, I see why Master Rigby, my instructor, and Sensei Steele, why they are the way they are as far as their teaching proficiency. And I love how you mentioned the symposium, which is our gathering, and you get a chance to connect with like-minded people there. And yeah, that's one of the things that I always take away too, not just from a technique base, but how do these masters interact with students? How are they teaching? Like what formula are they using? Because I think over time, and like you said, you kind of get a feel of how you teach, and then you just relate it. Yeah, and then you just relay that information to the students, and hopefully at the end of the day, right, you hope that they at least pick up or leave with something, that was shared. I can share this.
Yeah.
One of the very first times, actually, it might not have been the first time I was teaching, but but it was definitely early on. I remember being at Master Rigby's school, and he asked me to teach a group of green belts, right? So I think there was like 10 in the group, and they were all kids, and I had to be at least 18, 19. So I was still fairly new in the teaching realm. And I remember I was standing right by the edge of the floor, and by the edge of the floor, there were parents sitting, of course. And that's always, at the time, that was always the biggest fear is like, man, like, what are these parents thinking? Like, do they think I actually like know what I'm talking about? And I always share this story with anyone that or if it comes up. So I was teaching these green belts and it was only 10 minutes, bro. 10 minutes, but it seemed
Yeah.
like
An
forever.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah. And and the kata they were doing was Shinto. So usually when you watch, students do kata or any type of performance, your job is not just to watch, but to kind of critique and give any type of feedback. And bro, there was no feedback to be given that day. I was just like, all right, guys, cool. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And the whole time I'm like thinking like, oh man, these parents probably think I suck. And then all the way on the other corner, I see Master Rigby, like, staring at me, of course, just watching me. So finally 10 minutes goes by. He says, all right, Yame. So, the class gets bowed out. And the first thing I did was I went over to Master Rigby. I said, hey, how, uh, how did I do teaching? And I'm gonna paraphrase, but something along the lines of he said, "Oh, I wasn't even paying attention. I was just watching the whole class." I'm thinking, really? So this whole time I thought that he was staring at me, and then as far as the parents, I had to learn this over time. So I've learned to kind of shift my angles when I'm teaching. So like almost like circling like whatever group I'm working. And dude, half the time the parents are just on their phones. They're just they're doing something other than watching. And I would say most watch, of course, but a lot of the pressure, man, was on me. It's just like no, they're like the parents are there because they believe in the instructors. They otherwise they wouldn't have brought their kids there.
Yeah.
So that was the
It's funny
toughest
you say
part.
that. Yeah. I talk about this a lot, right? And I feel it not only in karate, but sometimes as like, well, as a father, and as a working professional, I always it's imposter syndrome, right? Like,
Yeah,
I feel sometimes that I am not supposed to be doing what I'm doing, right? Like I'm not qualified to be a father, right? I don't know what I'm doing, right? And so like you think that people are watching and making judgment. Same thing at work. Like, I recently took a promotion and I often talk to the guys that I work with and go, I don't feel like I'm qualified for this job, but here I am, I'm going to figure it out. And it
yeah,
goes back to karate too, even though, I've now I've been with Master Chase now for 30 years. And a lot of that it's as a kid, and so it's not quite the same as 30 years as adult training, but nonetheless, 30 years of martial arts experience, and I still feel like, man, I don't know half of what I'm telling these kids to do, right?
yeah,
But you're right, you put that self pressure on, and it's all internal, and there's really, like you said, you talk to Master Rigby, and I've done the same with Master Chase, and he goes, no, you're fine, like stop
yeah.
worrying about it, take a deep breath, relax, go on, and it's wild how much you can put personal pressure on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. And then like over the years, I just had to find things like, like what's gonna make me sharp or what's gonna make me better at this craft. And then for me, especially as of late, and I'm sure you've seen it, I post a lot of videos of whether it's just self-reflection or just just talking about things going on in life. But I always try to convey a positive message. And believe it or not, the more that I've gotten comfortable talking in front of a camera, I've gotten a lot comfortable talking in front of people, and this, as you said, it's kind of like an evolution. It definitely doesn't happen overnight. And going back to what you said about kind of when we all gather, especially at the symposium, a lot of my inspiration comes from watching other instructors. I mean, not just from the Ishinru realm, but even jujitsu. I've had the chance to be out at Gracie University out in Torrance, California, and man, like when I say like Henner Hidon Gracie, like they are by far the most intelligent instructors, just the way they convey messages. And I think every instructor I mean, obviously has their pros and cons that they bring. But when I saw teaching at such a high level, I said, "Oh, so that's what it's like to really teach." And then, I kind of gravitated towards that. So now when I teach, it's almost like there's a little bit of so many people inside me that I'm trying to convey. It's still me, of course, because I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't be able to like even have this discussion. But just as we mature or as we climb the ranks, if you will, I feel like at some point I might become a black belt at actually teaching, and not just a
Yeah.
black belt in karate, but I feel you feel the same way, I mean, we constantly want to improve and we don't want to let our students down. And then for you being a father, and I'm glad you mentioned the imposter syndrome. I mean, I'm not a father of my own, and I don't know if I ever will. I mean, if that's something that I'm blessed with, great. If not, I'm so happy that I get to teach and give back to the next generation. And for me, I think that's enough, So, um, what is fatherhood? And I know this is probably a loaded question, but what has fatherhood been like for you? And what are some of the life lessons that you've learned in karate that kind of transcend into the fatherhood world, if you will?
Yeah, man, being a father's crazy. It is by far one of the wildest experiences that I've ever experienced ever. I think about today and looking back, 6 years ago or 7 years, my oldest is he's 6, my youngest is 3. So
Nice.
there's a healthy gap between them, but it's been a wild, 6 years thus far. And I definitely, well, like in teaching, you progress, like especially that day one coming home from the hospital for the first time. No one can prepare you for what that feeling is. It is, especially after talking with other fathers and parents and stuff, it is truly one of the only like 100% unique feelings that you'll ever have.
Yeah.
My experience doesn't mirror any of my friends' experiences that have gone through it, doesn't mirror what my father went through. It's very humbling experience to realize that now you are kind of in charge of this life and this mind that you can kind of grow and not only grow with him but like grow me as a parent, as a person. And I talk to my wife a lot about this sometimes too. And everybody talks about their firstborn, but we don't always acknowledge is that this is the first time we've done this as well. So
Yeah.
if I might make a mistake with my kid where I know that, man, I should have done that differently.
Yeah.
But I can take the lesson and I can admit to my son, hey, buddy, this is the first time I've had to do this. You know what I mean? I've never, had to deal with a kid going into kindergarten before or dealt with the emotions that comes with, or,
Yeah.
now he's in first grade and, it just, his firsts are my first, from my point of view, and being able to grow and adapt and, it is kind of that whole, like, you've talked about the Kumite lifestyle, right? And being every interaction, every combo you throw, every defensive technique that you might have to do is an opportunity to learn and grow and be ready for the next time, right? And so that's really what fatherhood has been.
Yeah.
And as long as and it goes back to that conversation we had too about, like the internal pressures of feeling like everyone's looking at you and judging you as a father, and then realizing that no, like they are living their own life. This is our little cumulus that we have here. It's okay to take a breath and admit a mistake and learn from it, So it's been wild.
Yeah.
Um, I've loved every step of it. It's challenging, it's rewarding, um, but it does have a lot of similarities to martial arts, though, in terms of that growth and the development and the different mindsets and being able to adapt and overcome and maybe change your perspective to get through to that next level.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how you mentioned that, and I think you're one of the very first people that I've talked to about, fatherhood or just being a parent, how you said that, hey, this is brand new for me too. And I think that takes a very honest and kind of a vulnerable approach because, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I want to believe that every parent that's raising kids or whether it's a kid or multiple kids, they want what's best for them, but to be able to admit like, hey, this is the first time I'm experiencing this too, and that's awesome that you've adopted that mindset, bro. So let me ask you this: if you had to, so I know you're a black belt in karate, but if you had to give yourself a belt rank in fatherhood or parenthood, what belt would you give yourself? because
Oh man,
because I'm sure
gosh.
no one's ever asked you that before.
No, that's a good question though. You know what I mean? I never thought about it like that. Certainly not a black belt. No, no, no. And
Sure.
I think any parent that tells you that they're a black belt is absolutely lying to you.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, shoot, I'd fall like I'd hopefully like to think that I've at least graduated to like a yellow belt, maybe, you know.
For sure.
My kids are young, you know what I mean? I got a lot of childhood left ahead of me.
I feel once you
Um,
pass the diaper stage, you're definitely at a yellow belt.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're getting close. We're just getting close to being able to put that whole, behind us with our youngest right now. And
Yeah.
um, but yeah, yeah, we're still, a couple more years and we'll be out of like the daycare system, which is wild to me, and
Yeah.
um time it's truly the only thing you don't have, right, that you can't get back is time.
Yep. Yep.
It's time is precious, man, and it's hard sometimes when you're in the kind of the trenches of it to remember that even in the bad times it'll change, right? Things will get better. But then when it's good, you also have to remember things will change, and you need to appreciate the highs and the lows for what they are,
Yeah.
and be, just always involved and always present, always
Yeah.
present.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great mindset to have just, in life in general, because like you said, this is all we have right now. We can't get it back. Time is our most precious commodity, me. And I agree with you there. So, um, I want to shift gears now. So you mentioned earlier, like as we started, when you're talking about your certificates and how your family is now involved in training, what has, from what you can tell, what has their experience been like training Ishinu Karate, and has it been pretty cool to be able to share something that's been very profound for you, and now you get to share that with your family? So, kind of talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it was when Master Chase moved back, my oldest son was 3, and so it wasn't quite ready for taking classes. But he was around a lot. So I helped Master Chase to kind of like the build out for the dojo we're in now.
Yeah,
So I was spending a lot of time there putting up walls, doing drywall, fixing whatever needed to be fixed, and so he was just with me, man. He came with me every time he wanted to go to the dojo, run around on the mats. I mean, what kid doesn't love running around on a completely open floor, right? So he
yeah,
he really did grow up in the dojo, and for him, it was one of those things like, yeah, as soon as I'm old enough, like I'm on the floor. Um, but it's been challenging as a parent watching, right? Because we teach kids all the time, right? You teach them how to throw punches and kicks and combinations, and you get them in a sparring ring and stuff like that. I tell you, the first time my son stepped foot into a ring with gear and pads and started actually, going at it with another one of his classmates. Man, that was a profound moment because I didn't know whether I should be an instructor, a parent, whether I was, I could hold it together emotionally. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
he took that first punch, and I don't know if you remember your first sparring matches, but that's a
Oh, I
shock,
do.
man.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like the
yeah,
first time you get the wind knocked out of you, it's tough. And especially my son, he was 4 at the time, and his eyes start to well up, and you want to go rush right out there and be that, but then you have to remind yourself that this is all part of the development of martial arts and his martial arts. And so being
yeah,
able to take a step back and know when to be a parent, but then when to be an instructor has been a challenge for sure.
yeah,
But I see the benefits, man. I see his confidence in himself. It was hugely apparent even between some of his classmates and the confidence he had just interacting with other kids at school and other, extracurricular events and stuff like that. So, and I tell him all the time, buddy, like, you don't have to do karate because I do karate. If you love it and you want to I'll keep taking you as much as you want. So never, I try really hard not to pressure him to be uh, interested because I'm interested. And so far that's been worked out really well. And he has his
yeah.
own journey. I mean, everybody's karate journey is different. And with my wife, it was the same thing. So, we started dating. I was still training with Master Chase. Um, I didn't really tell her a lot about my training. She knew I trained. But I think the first real experience she had was I was testing for my NEDON, my second degree. It was right before Master Chase was moving to Ohio, and it
That's
was a
right.
formal testing day, right? So,
Yeah,
she didn't know what to expect, and she came in and sat down and observed for like the 3-4 hours that we were there, and she was absolutely blown away. Um, and so, yeah, she kind of fully understood the impact of what it was through that moment. But then she didn't start training until after Master Chase came back to Rochester. So I continued my training. I had trained here with a school, another local Ishinru school. And then when she finally got started, when Master Chase finally reopened his dojo here, and I started training back with him again, she finally got interested. And I remember Master Chase was traveling for the holidays, and I said, "Why don't you just come in? Just come in. I'm teaching the class. Don't worry about it. I got an extra gi. I'll give you a white belt when we get there. Just come and see if you like it." And yeah, she ate it up, man. You could tell that she was into it. She was actually born in Japan, so she's got a little bit of cultural ties. She
Wow,
was a
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
she was born at the Air Force Base. Her dad was stationed over in Japan, and
Yeah,
so she always had kind of that cultural interest, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But then having Master Chase back and him having such a wealth of information about Okinawa, as you know, he lived there for many, many years, trained, got his, went through college there in the University of Tokyo. So she connected with him on that level. And then the two of them, man, it's funny because you get them talking, and oftentimes I'll just go change. You know what I mean? After class, like you
yeah.
guys take off. You know what I mean? And they're a riot to watch together. So, but yeah, she's fully into it. We were just at the dojo last night. She got her green belt a couple months ago, so she's
That's
picking
awesome.
up yeah, so now
Awesome.
it's into the Kobudo stuff, right? The weapons and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
Which
it's been
guys,
fun.
which guys, Kobudo, by the way, is weapons. And if you've studied any type of martial arts style that deals with weapons, when you pick up a weapon, you're like a white belt all over again. And I just had to clarify that because I had this conversation with a student recently, and they said, "Wow, it's like, man, like you guys make the bow look so easy." And like, it's not, bro. When I first picked up a bow, I was like I was probably like 7 or 8. I was a blue belt for at least 8 months because I was just stupid with the bow. I just couldn't understand it. And then one day, bro, it just clicked. Now I can do a bow just fine. And I'm sure you can too. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's been cool, and it's been awesome with her because I've been able to kind of relive my white belt journey with her. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So like t going and relearning Seisan, as you know, right, as we get more advanced, your kata changes, right? And so the way we might go from a ready stance to that first step in Seisan even, right? For the side block punch, we're very comfortable at this point doing like a full cover. Hands don't have to come from the hips necessarily. We're kind of moving a little bit more fluidly, but then having to then teach that to not only just a white belt, but someone you love and you care about, and someone that has a little bit more of a different relationship than just somebody at the dojo. You know what I mean? Like I see my wife every day, so the way her and I teach is different than I might teach another white belt, but just because of our relationship, right?
sure.
And
Yeah,
so I've been able to kind of go through that journey and live with that kind of growth with her more
yeah.
closely than I would be with another white belt, and that's been really cool.
Yeah, it's like once you build that rapport with any student, but in this case, your wife, you can kind of talk to them a little bit more differently. So it's a little bit more intimate as far as what you can say and convey to them for sure. I always say, so something that I've learned about teaching, it's almost like when you go to the bank and you make a withdrawal. You can't make a withdrawal if it's a negative account. So when you're teaching, it's like you're always making a deposit, 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 deposit. It's like if I'm teaching you for the first time, it's like I know I want to correct you, but I can't overcorrect because then you're going to get discouraged. But once I have built that rapport and I have enough money in the bank, if you will, then I can start making those withdrawals, and those withdrawals could be, that feedback. But because you know your wife, it's awesome that you've already I feel like you've already established that way before. So teaching in that sense is much more efficient for sure.
Yeah, she's made me a much better instructor overall because, she's not afraid to be like, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, where somebody that maybe is, you only know them from the dojo
Yeah,
might
it,
have that like white belt, black belt
it
relationship.
can be
My
tough
wife's
in the
not afraid.
beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's not afraid to call me out. You know what I mean? And that's awesome to me because it's like, okay, you're
yeah,
right. Let me rethink of this. So she's made me think more than once when I teach, and it's made me better because then I know, and I'm more cognizant of maybe having to phrase it slightly differently for different people, right? Everybody learns differently.
yep,
And so being able to adapt to that person and understand or maybe visually take the cues that like, man, something's just not clicking with this one phrase that I'm saying. Let me try to rephrase it. And so I've
yeah,
had to relearn, and she's really helped me kind of think about things differently, and maybe the speech that I'm using and how I
yeah.
convey it. So it's been cool. I give her a lot of credit, a ton of credit for how far I've come in the last, 2 years or so.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also credit to her for, believing and trusting in you too. So it's a two-way street, man. Like it's definitely
It
a
does,
teamwork.
yeah. And she supported me. I mean, even, through my son being born and even before that, um, supporting me through, wanting to go to the dojo, wanting to go train and stuff like that, and allowing me to kind of grow as a martial artist, and kind of pursue that. So yeah, she's been, such a huge supporter of me, and I can't thank her enough for what she's been able to do for me since I've known her, really. So
Yeah. Yeah, because she's seen what the martial arts done for you in every way, especially the positive. So no, that's cool that you have a
yeah.
very supporting wife and a family member and a, best friend, if you will, that you guys can do it both together. I mean, it's nice to do something that you enjoy by yourself, but it's even better when you can bring people along with you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Our date nights are now nights of the dojo, right? Like, so we'll get a babysitter and then we'll go to the dojo. So it's been fun. Yeah, it's been really fun.
That's awesome, bro. So, Tim, before we wrap it up, what's next for you? So, when I say what's next, do you have anything in the works as far as, karate progression? Or is there anything coming up, or even just in your own personal life that you don't mind sharing? So, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, what's keeping you motivated for the next thing in your life now?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just um, continuing to evolve as a martial artist, as a father, as a husband, and the dojo obviously is a huge part of that because it provides that space, that safe space to go and really, um, you know, just focus on the moment, right? I always feel like when I'm kind of lost and uh, floundering outside in my personal life, 20 minutes in the dojo, man, you come back out focused,
So
and
much
so
better.
so much better.
Yeah.
And so just continuing that journey. Like I don't know if I have like a specific martial arts goal at this point. I'm extremely blessed to be training at a dojo with Kaicho Master Chase. And so it's really just continuing to evolve and absorb as much as I can. He's got he'll know he'll forget more about martial arts than I'll ever know, right? And so if I can take that, 1% of what he can teach me
Hmm.
and continue that lineage for him and that succession and be able to pass it on to the next generation and the next generation, that's where I'm at. I want to just absorb as much as I can from him and all of our master instructors in OIKKA because I think it is truly a unique organization to have this amount of knowledge
Yeah.
and experience to pull from that I hope that guys like you and me we can continue that well
Yeah.
into the future and
Yeah.
build those relationships and that network now. That's kind of if that's a goal, right? That's my goal. I want to network as much as possible with the guys that we have around us so that we feel capable of passing it on to the next generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I love it. And I think it's only going to go up from there as long as we're putting forth our best effort, you know. Tim, I hear the word on the street is you're in the process of starting your own brand or your own uniform brand. So I'd love for you to take the time to explain that so we can help promote that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been kind of a side project that I've been working on with the help of Master Chase. We talk a lot about, especially students coming in and how often you teach and you find that, your favorite gis get a little ratty after a while. And so we've been trying to find, a place where we can get uniforms that, fit and um, are good enough quality that'll last and things like that. And I think right? You get a gi that fits just right, it is something special, right? You
Oh
get
yeah.
that extra little,
Oh
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Puff up the chest a bit.
Yeah.
Um, so I spent a long time figuring out the fit and how I wanted to size a uniform and what I would look for. And finally we said, well, why don't we just make our own? What's stopping us, right? So um, I spent a long time figuring out how to go from an idea, from like a size chart to an actual product here at our door, right? And so we put a name to it. So it's called Rushindo. It's still really small, still grassroots right now, kind of word of mouth.
Yeah.
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. But we don't have a website for right now, but I do have inventory. I've got a small, I think I've
Yeah.
got about fifteen uniforms left. I've sold close to 40 or so at this point.
Bro, that's
Um,
awesome, dude.
yeah, and a lot of it's local, right? We've got a good
Doesn't
network here in
matter. I mean, the
Rochester.
fact that you're still selling it, I mean, the fact that you just started, like it started with an idea and now I mean, you taking those steps and just getting started, man, I mean, even with this podcast, that's the hardest thing. It's just getting started because we already have this fixed idea of what we want it to be, but we can't go from here to there without going through all the things in between. So, no, man, like, kudos to you for starting that. And guys, just so you know, I have one of those geese that Tim is talking about, and I'll share a picture of this later once I
Yeah, I got
upload
a few
this.
more actually. I'm sending two more down to Delaware this week. So,
Yeah, yeah, yep.
um,
Yep.
yeah,
So no, that's cool, man. I really hope that takes off or I hope it goes the way that you want it to, because it's your vision and
yeah,
I hope that be cool because like you said, I mean like once you wear that once you wear a certain gi and it feels good, you're like today's gonna be a good day.
yeah. I wore mine last night, man, and it's just like, and it could be placebo, you know what I mean? But you get that extra snap, and you're like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
it. This is how I feel great doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been cool. It's been really fun, and I don't know. I don't have any major ambitions for what it is, other than, if I can get, the group around me that likes the uniform we got, and we all feel good wearing it, that'll be enough. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, it could be as big or as little, but just going through and learning, I think has been almost more enjoyable than actually having inventory to sell at this point, So
Yeah.
it's been fun. I really enjoy it. And, who knows? I'll keep supporting or, spreading the word on the brand and see where it goes.
Yep. Yep. And I would love to support and help any way I can. So just let me know down the road for sure. And I'll do a
Perfect.
little yep, and I'll share your Instagram, like, for that as well, so people can see. And speaking of
Yeah.
social media, where can people find you and like where can people find Chase Karate Academy?
Yeah, so I run all the social media for our dojo as well. So anything I post martial arts related gets posted there. I got a couple videos up of our classes, of our kids' classes, so you can check out what we're doing. But yeah, we're on Instagram, Chase underscore karate underscore rock, ROC, and then we're Chase Karate Academy on Facebook as well. So you can check us out there. We got our website up, chasekarate.com. So you log on there and reach out. I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Tim, listen, we thank you for your time. Before we go, are there any shout outs or any last minute things you would like to share with the viewers?
No, I think I'm pumped to see where Kumite lifestyle goes, man. I'm super happy to be a part of it, especially at this stage of it. So
Thank you.
I'm excited, man, to watch what you got growing, you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
excited to keep collaborating. Hopefully there'll be an opportunity for us to train and travel and get back on the floor together. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we have the symposium coming up. So
Yes, absolutely.
are you going to be at that event in, was it October? November,
November, I
November.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm planning on coming down. So I'm trying to get a group from, it's been cool because the last symposium was when we first reopened. And so it
Hmm.
was just me and Master Chase. I'm really hoping I can get, a good handful of students to come down with us to experience it because this will be the first big OIKK
Yeah.
event. And so I'm hoping we get a good group to come down. So yeah, we should be there. Anybody watching that's going to be there, come say hi. I'd love to meet you and we'll train. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor to have you on today's Kumite Lifestyle Show. And guys, like Tim said before, make sure to check him out at the socials below. And then thank you again for guys for logging in. And Tim, hope you have a great day and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Yep.